Hey guys, welcome back to Fire Foods. So we all know a full brisket is a big cut of meat and more than often you'll end up with a lot of leftovers. So in today's video I'm going to show you how to smoke a brisket and we'll also show you different ways to make use of leftover brisket. So let me show you how to do it and let's make some fire foods. First you'll need to trim the brisket. When you first get the brisket it tends to have a lot of fat on it. Start by taking off that top layer of fat. I like to keep about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of fat on top to help get the work on the brisket. Then trim the edges of the brisket and try to cut any thin edges off or it will burn on the smoker. Flip the brisket and you will find this chunk of fat that is called the decal. Trim that off as it's just hard fat with no flavor. Finally, remove as much silver skin as possible and trim any excess fat until you end up with something like this. So this here is the point, which is the fattiest part of the brisket. It is the more flavorful cut and this is where the burnt ends comes from. In the middle here is the strand of fat that separates the two muscles and it will render and get super soft throughout the cook. Finally, this is the flat part, and it is leaner and lower in fat than the point and also tends to dry much quicker. Some people like to cook the two muscles separately, but I will be cooking the whole pack of brisket today and it's going to be absolutely amazing. To season the brisket, add some oil on top so that the rub sticks to the meat. For the rub, I'm using a mixture of salt, garlic powder, and black pepper. Make sure to be generous when applying the rub because it's a big piece of meat and will definitely need a lot of seasoning on there. So we're going to cook the whole packer brisket on the smoker at 225 degrees all the way using hickory wood. Once it gets a nice color and good bark on it, then we're going to wrap it in butcher paper and finish it until it's done. Don't forget to spray the meat to prevent it from drying out. I'm using apple cider vinegar and I spray every 1 hour. Once the internal temperature is around 165 degrees and it has developed a nice bark, take it out and spray a couple of times, then wrap it in butcher paper. Put the brisket back on the smoker and put the thermometer back in. Leave it until it hits 205 degrees internal. Then take it out and let it rest for at least 1 hour to help the brisket to relax, to bring all the moisture into the meat. While the brisket is resting, I'm going to prepare my first dish and it's burn-ins Bowel buns. In a bowl, add 3/4 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of yeast. Then mix it around until it's partially dissolved. Then set it aside for 10 minutes. In a separate bowl, add 2½ cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 3 tablespoons of powdered milk, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and finally add the water and yeast solution. Then start by mixing with a spatula and then you can knead it with your hands or you can use a dough mixer if you have one. Once it becomes like this, let it rest for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes are done, the dough should be smooth and elastic. Then shape it into a ball with your hands and put some olive oil into the bottom. Then place the dough and put more oil on top to prevent it from sticking. Now cover it up with saran wrap or a towel. and let it rise in a warm area for 2 hours till it doubles in size. Take out the dough after it has risen. Then roll it out using a rolling pin to a 1/4 of an inch thickness. Apply extra flour if it starts to stick to the surface you're working on. You can use a round cutter, and if you don't have one, just use a glass cup and cut the dough into circles. Then remove the extra dough and you can reshape it and reuse it again. Now take each one and roll the surface once with a rolling pin, then apply some oil using a brush, and fold it in half, then roll it lightly one more time to make sure that it maintains its shape. And repeat the same process for the rest. To steam the buns, I'm going to be using a traditional bamboo steamer. Open the lid and place your buns on top of a damp parchment paper, leaving some space in between. Then cover it up and put it on a slightly boiling water in a pan on medium heat for 12 minutes. After 12 minutes, it's time to take out the bao buns. Usually that's how it's served, but I'm going to make it a little bit better by brushing it with egg wash, then put it in the oven on broil for a couple of minutes so that the surface gets a good color and texture. Also, I'm going to make a homemade barbecue sauce that will definitely beat most of the store-bought barbecue sauces out there. In a saucepan on medium heat, add 1 cup ketchup, 1/4 cup water, 1/4 cup red wine vinegar, then mix well. Then add 1 teaspoon Worcestershire sauce, 1 teaspoon onion powder, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 2 tablespoons brown sugar, 1 teaspoon paprika, ½ teaspoon cayenne powder. Mix well. Then add 1 teaspoon of mustard. Then mix it around. And once it starts to boil, cover with the lid and let it simmer for 20 minutes on low heat. Once the time is done, then turn off the heat and your barbecue sauce is ready. Now that the brisket has been resting for some time, let's cut into it and see how it turned out. I'm going to cut in the middle of the brisket and look how juicy that is. Perfection. Now let's cut the rest of the brisket. make the burnt ends, you will need to cut this part of the point into cubes. Place them into aluminum tray, add barbecue rub, brown sugar, honey, and barbecue sauce. Then mix very well and cover with aluminum foil, then place it into a smoker at 275 degrees for 20 minutes. Once it starts to firm up and get sticky like this, then you know it's done. Next step is to assemble your brisket Bowel buns. Next, I'm going to make a simple brisket burger. I will use a brioche bun and cut it in half, add some brisket slices. I'm using flat for this one. You can add whatever you want on top, but I'm going to go simple with some pickles and our homemade barbecue sauce. Super delicious. Also, I'm going to make a brisket nacho dish that you can share with your friends and family. Start with a plate filled with tortilla chips, then add some salsa on top. Red onions. Jalapenos. Chopped up brisket. Some guacamole and sour cream. Add some shredded cheese and finally some green onions. That's a dish that you'll probably never get bored of. It's so good. Next, I'm going to make brisket street tacos. In a cast iron skillet on medium heat, add some oil. Then place a small tortilla. Then flip it over. Add some cheese on top. Then add some chopped brisket. Fold it and take it off. You can add some sour cream, red onions, and a touch of cilantro and enjoy yourself some delicious street tacos. Guys, definitely give these recipes a try and let me know in the comments below what do you make with your leftover brisket. And that's the end of the video, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified for upcoming new videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.